And welcome into another edition of Beyond the Endzone. I am your host once again, and as always, Nathan Lee. Got a lot to talk about. It's been a crazy week since the last time we've got to chat on here. And you know, the college football world has been put on its head. Obviously, we are just days away from the final college football playoff bracket. But the biggest news, luckily it's over. I know my Ole Miss fans that watch all the time are ready to put this in the rearview mirror. Obviously, Lane Kiffin is now LSU's head coach. We have brought y'all that for the past week, all the latest details on that, and we're just going to give you all the latest when it comes to contracts and stuff like that for Lane out there in Baton Rouge. And also if Ole Miss, makes a run here, what LSU would do to, make things right when it comes to a financial standpoint. But obviously, we'll kind of break that down all for y'all. And then we also got to talk about Pete Golding. We did not get the introductory press conference this week like I have been telling y'all that earlier this week that we would get. They've decided to cancel this press conference for this week specifically to focus on the final rankings that will come out on Sunday. Obviously, those are the ones that matter. They really did not want this to be about Golding, and it was mainly Golding did not want, in his statement at least, he did not want this to be about his new job, his new gig. He wanted this to be about the players and what they've earned and what they will be celebrating for on Sunday, all likelihood, especially with the latest rankings coming out on Tuesday, kind of pretty much locking in Ole Miss, but we'll break that down and let y'all hear something that he had to say earlier this year. But we also got championship games. High school football is nearly over. Can y'all believe that? I mean, that is just crazy to me, as well as college football coming to an end. NFL is already in week 14. Like, it flies by. We wait all off season for to get right here, and it's already gone, and it's crazy. We will kind of break down those games. We'll have coverage out there all day today at 6 o'clock. We'll have our Teddy Reedy join us in our 6 o'clock newscast to break down West Point versus Brookhaven, which is our big game for tonight, as well as obviously Saints, and then the SWAC Championship. That's big time. Obviously, Jackson State is on a quest here to possibly do something that, history books, right? I mean, this is history book stuff to possibly win another SWAC championship back-to-back years and make it right back into the Celebration Bowl, where they would play South Carolina State in a rematch if Jackson State wins this weekend against Prairie View A&M. But we'll break that all down in just a second. Then obviously we'll talk about some New Orleans Saints as they have a divisional matchup today on Sunday, against the Buccaneers, and then we'll do our game picks like always to wrap up this show. Without further ado, I think that's enough laying out the road work and the map here of what we're going to talk about. Let's get right into the Lane Kiffin situation. Obviously, like I said, to get this thing started, I know Ole Miss fans and really all college football fans are ready for this story to be over. We waited for the announcement. It took longer than expected. We finally got here, and it's still a big conversation piece in the sports world, not just college football. But obviously, Lane Kiffin was introduced out there on Monday as the that was a mistake. There we go. And thanks, there's Lane Kiffin donning the purple and gold. Obviously, he's been introduced as the next head coach out there at LSU. Just some details we wanted to give y'all, and then we'll move along here. LSU's full term sheet when it comes to Lane Kiffin being the new head coach. They revealed a massive 7-year deal worth more than $13 million annually, containing the most aggressive protections and incentives in college football. Kiffin's contract officially runs from November 30th, 2025 through December 31st, 2032. According to the document, the base salary is $400,000 annually, supplemental compensation $12.6 million annually. Together, that makes it around that $13 million annual sum. Now, if LSU wins a playoff, college football playoff national championship during that term, Kiffin's salary automatically increases for the remainder of the deal so that he exceeds the highest paid coach in college football. But this escalator can only be triggered once. And lastly, LSU will pay Kiffin what he would have earned if he had stayed at Ole Miss through the college football playoffs this year. First round, $150,000, $250,000 if they win the quarterfinals, $500,000 if they win the semifinals, and then getting to the championship game would have been $750,000 and $1 million if they win the actual title all the way. And like I've told my Ole Miss fans, everything's in front of you. We now know Charlie Weiss, the offensive coordinator, is going to stick around for the playoff run for the Ole Miss Rebels. That was a big conversation piece. Kiffin taking a lot of his offensive staff, most of the defensive staff sticking around, but who would be running the offense? I know Joe Judge was one name that I imagine a lot of people have seen as a guy that decided to stay out there in Oxford. Would he be calling plays? We now know Charlie Weiss, the offensive coordinator for Ole Miss all season, will be coming up with the game plan and calling plays for the Ole Miss Rebels in the first round of the playoffs, likely in Oxford. But one thing I did want to show y'all, enough with the Lane Kiffin stuff. I understand it's about these players on the field. I'm right there with you. But the one thing I did want to show y'all was something that Golden said earlier this year. It was before the season started when he got his first extension with the Ole Miss Rebels. And, if you take a little trip down memory lane, last year, Ole Miss's defense was one of the best in the country and one of the best in school history, if we're being completely honest. They lost a lot of talent this offseason. And that's why that word rebuilding year, that phrase really, rebuilding year, was thrown out a lot heading into this season for the Ole Miss Rebels. And they turned that completely on its head, obviously their best season, regular season in school history. But this is something that Golden said about the extension and kind of his love for Ole Miss. I really wanted y'all to check this out.
We came here from a family decision standpoint, so that's one thing when you make the decision, right? You never know what they think about you. So obviously from the chancellor, right, to Keith, to Coach Kiffin, obviously we appreciate that. This is where we want to be. This is why we came here. So I think that's a direct reflection of the players, of the coaching staff. That has nothing to do with me. But obviously when you come here and want to be here, right, the commitment on both sides is awesome to see. So, yeah, definitely grateful and appreciative of that.
Yeah, that was just something I wanted to show y'all. I mean, we've seen the videos, what kind of a motivator recruiter this guy is for Ole Miss, a big piece to their success. Like, I know Lane Kiffin gets a lot of love and a lot of praise for what he built out there in Oxford, but this was a team effort. And he's also said that, he's made that clear. I know a lot of hate is going towards Kiffin right now, but, he's always given his assistant staff and players all the credit, because that's really what makes a team run. Pete Golding's a massive piece to their recruiting, to their motivation, obviously to their defensive turnaround. Those first few years when Kiffin was out there in Oxford, the defense was the problem, right? We always talked about, hey, Ole Miss is going to be offensively going to be able to compete with anybody, but can they stop anybody? Then last year we have the year with Dart where they nearly make the playoffs. You lose the wrong games and you end up missing, but he's a big piece to why things change for them. So wanted to show y'all that, because I really like that. And I like Golden's motivation. And I think for Ole Miss fans and all others, there's nothing to be too worried about when it comes to the commanding leader now out there in Oxford ahead of this playoff run. And we'll break that down in just a second, the importance and possible chaotic scenario that could play out, that could put the College Football Committee in a very tough spot, even though I think Ole Miss is a lock. But let's get right into, now we got MHSAA Championship games. We got a massive slate of games today. I'm going to lay them all out for y'all and let y'all know which games we will be covering for y'all to keep y'all all up to date on these massive games that are still, some teams are still in our coverage area. But let's get right into it. First of all, we have right here, we got Brookhaven taking on Laurel in the playoffs last week. But today we have Calhoun City taking on Simmons. That game kicks off at 4 p.m. Calhoun City, they are 12-1 on the year, while Simmons undefeated 12-0. Unbelievable year for these two teams. That is the 1A state title. And why am I showing Brookhaven? Well, they play tonight in the 5A state title against West Point, who is undefeated. Their name speaks for itself. We know how good West Point is and has been for a very, very long time. Brookhaven, though, coming in here trying to do something that this is a big time goal and big time mission for them, for them to be able to pull something like this off against a team like West Point, who's 13-0 on the year, and really, the history behind it. Big time game for the for Brookhaven Panthers. Obviously, we're going to bring all that coverage tonight. That is one of the big games that we will be covering. Like I said, our Teddy Reedy earlier, he will be out there today, 6 o'clock. He'll have a little preview of the game, and then tonight we'll have highlights as well as post game with the winning coach. So tune in tonight at 10 p.m. to find out the final on that one, as well as that sound from the winning coach. But that's not our only games. We also got massive games tomorrow. The 4A state title game, Kosciuszko 13-1 takes on undefeated Columbia. I mean, another school like Columbia, that their name speaks for itself. That record speaks for itself. Kosciuszko, though, what a run they've had this season, 13-1, going out there in Starkville. That's where all these games are being played out there in Mississippi State this year. Big time game there. And then 6A, Warren Central, looking for their first title in a very, very long time. They're taking on Hattiesburg, a very proven program. That's near where I'm from, actually, out there in Purvis. Warren Central 11-2 on the season, as well as Hattiesburg being 11-2. That game kicks off at 7:30. Kosciuszko Columbia kicks off tomorrow at 4 p.m. And then we get into Saturday. We got the last few games of the year. Crazy, again, we're already at the end of the season. 3A state title between Knoxville County and Raleigh. Raleigh 13-1. Unbelievable win this past week to keep their season alive. Knoxville County, obviously, the talent that's come out of there in the past. I mean, we saw what Kamario Taylor can do and will do if he sticks around at Mississippi State. Another great team, 11-3 coming to that game. That game kicks off at noon out there in Starkville. 2A state title, East Webster takes on Heidelberg. East Webster, 13-1 on the year. Heidelberg 12-2. And lastly, the 7A state title, the big schools. This is going to be such a fun matchup. I cannot wait for this one. You got Tupelo, another school that speaks for itself, facing off against Gulfport. Y'all got to watch this. Y'all have got to watch this game. We'll have coverage, obviously, but this game right here, very excited. Crosby for Gulfport, the running back, unbelievable player. Every single time we've had Gulfport in our, in our highlights, he seems to be all over the highlights. I'm pretty sure he had 3 touchdowns in two times that we had Gulfport in highlights. Just crazy what he's done this season. Very intrigued by that matchup. Obviously, Tupelo would go back to back. But yep, that's our games. We wanted to let y'all know what we have for our slate. That's all the championship games. We're gonna do our best to get y'all all that coverage. But we also got another massive game on Saturday. I can't wait for this one. I know the capital city can't wait for this one. I mean, there's nothing like the Vet when there's a big game. Let's get right into it. Jackson State, they are in yet another SWAC title game, looking to punch or win back-to-back. Unbelievable what they've done in recent memory as well, 4 out of 5 SWAC championships. I mean, the Tigers, what they've done this season is really impressive. When we talk about it, Jacoby Morgan getting hurt in the middle of the year. You see Jared Lockhart come in as a freshman, and, you know, he's grown as the season's gone on, but he's also playing better and better. You know, you can see growth, but sometimes is the result matching that. You're seeing that with Lockhart. He's getting a lot more comfortable out there. But what runs this Jackson State team is this run game. That is what I'm watching when they take on Prairie View A&M. This is a very fun matchup. I'm very excited to see these schools kind of match up here, because you look at the stats, it says, you know, a certain thing, but I'm kind of in the weeds on this one, because, you know, you look at Jackson State stats, and that's the point I'm kind of trying to make, is stats don't tell the whole story here, man. And you look at Jackson State stats and you're like, this should be, you know, but it's a championship game. It's a massive matchup. So both of these teams are going to be ready to play, but I'm really liking Jackson State's odds, loving the rushing attack by this team, and obviously the defense, what they've done recently. You know, when they get into these close games late, being able to hold on and not allow these, you know, late comeback efforts or getting opportunistic turnovers. We've seen earlier in the year, Alabama State, that one coming down to the wire, Alcorn State, they kind of let them get right back into that game. The defense steps up. So, you know, the experience is going to play a major factor in this, but this is what TC Taylor had to say ahead of the matchup and yet another SWAC title.
I'm locked in. You know, this is a goal that we set to be here. You know, we talked about winning the East. We did that last weekend. Well, yeah, it was a couple of weekends ago against Alcorn. And now we got the SWAC championship game. You know, these players know what's at stake. This is what they worked their butts off, all spring, all summer for, to get to this point and to go out here and dominate in this football game. We're looking forward to it. It's going to look like it's going to be, some rain in the forecast. So, you know, kind of got to get prepared for that, you know, a sloppy football game. But I know our fans still going to show up for that game. But, yeah, I've been here before, but this is 2025. This is a different year. So, you know, different opponent, and we got to get ready for them.
Like you said, different opponent, different year. All these things change. Weather possibly a factor in this game. So a lot will be into it. But just one more time, we will be out there to bring you plenty of coverage of yet another SWAC championship game involving Jackson State. But now let's talk about Ole Miss. Now we kind of hit on Lane Kiffin and all the situation that's playing out there, but let's talk about the team that's on the gridiron and what they have an opportunity to do, in just about a month, not even a month, a couple weeks really at this point, if they are bidded into the college football playoff bracket. Obviously Sunday at 11, that's the big day for all the news, this hour-long probably show that we're going to have to talk about these teams and who's making it into the playoffs. They're going to drag that out, but 11 a.m. on Sunday is when we will find out if the Ole Miss Rebels get that nod into the playoffs, and we will have full-time coverage out there. We'll if they allow, we will be at the celebration, I guess, to get video and everything of the players and their reaction to being a top 12 team in this playoff bracket coming up. So just want to let y'all know about that. Obviously, there is a chaotic scenario, and I'm going to break it down real quick for y'all. There is a scenario where the ACC is out, right? So let's just break this down real quick. All right, we got our 5 conference champions, 5 highest ranked conference champions. If Duke beats Virginia in the ACC championship, the ACC will not have a team in the playoffs, and that is because 2 group of 5 teams, group of 6, whatever how you want to call it now, those schools would jump in because they are higher ranked, and the teams that are playing their championship games, most likely that are to win, are higher ranked than Duke, who is 7-5 on the season. So let's talk about it. You got your locks. You got 2 locks for the Big Ten. I believe 2 locks for the SEC, Georgia, Alabama. You can't knock those 2 teams out if you make the championship, conference championship. So you got 4 already. Then we talk about Big Ten. I think Texas Tech is going to win. So you got 5 already. Now let's get into the other 2 conference champions that are group of 5. Let's just say Tulane or North Texas, interchangeable. And then you got James Madison that is likely going to beat Troy. Still a possibility Troy could win that game. But James Madison wins that one. You're already up to 7, right? I think Ole Miss and I think Oregon are locks. So now we're up to 8, right? You're getting into this crazy scenario of how many teams are left. You're running out of teams. We're up to 9. And then you got, not Alabama, A&M in there. Then you got Notre Dame. You're running out of spots. It's crazy how this could possibly play out if pure chaos. Now, even more pure chaos, Texas Tech loses to BYU. That's going to take another spot away from one of these teams that are already in the top 10. With Ole Miss in that 6th spot, like I said, I think they're on that line right there where you're in. I think the top 8 teams are pretty much locked in no matter what. So, and I even think Alabama is making for the SEC championship. So just wanted to break down that chaotic scenario. But now let's talk about my bracket for this week, Let's go ahead and give you all a quick little look at it. That kind of breaks down what I'm thinking is going to happen here. Big time stuff. We got Indiana taking the Big Ten championship, over Ohio State. They'll be the number 1 seed. Georgia, I think, beats Bama, gets the number 2 seed. Georgia is one of the hot teams right now. Ohio State, they're going to be the number 3 seed. Got Texas Tech in at 4. Then we talk about, that's when it gets a little weird. 5, I think, Oregon. Oh, I had a misspell on Oregon. Excuse me on that one. And then 6, Ole Miss. 7, Texas A&M. They would take on Alabama, in my opinion. As you see, Ole Miss would take on Virginia, because I do think that Virginia wins the ACC championship game. I do not think they lose to a 7-5 Duke. Notre Dame, they get, obviously, you see Alabama gets a little knock there. Notre Dame would still slip in at 9 versus 8 against Oklahoma, and I think Tulane will beat North Texas to take on Oregon. Very, very crazy scenario. I only got so much time to break it down, so that's kind of our look at that. Now, I wanted to talk Saints, but we are running out of time, so we're going to get right into these game picks so we can get on out of here. And let's get right into it. It's championship week. We're going to get started with Troy versus JMU. JMU, massive favorites. Like I said, they should win this game, and they will. 23.5 in a championship game, though, that's too much for me. I can see Troy covering in this one. James Madison, though, they're going to get the big win. North Texas, Tulane. I already kind of laid out my pick. I think Tulane's going to get this one, even though North Texas is favored. I've loved North Texas all year. I just think Tulane, they played a little bit harder competition this season. They played Ole Miss earlier in the year, if you don't remember that. I like Tulane's team a little bit more. I think they're just a little bit more talented overall. Tough game to pick, though. And both of these games are on Friday. That's a tough game, but I think Tulane is going to handle their business in a very good game. UNLV, they have a very, very off chance of making the playoff if a Troy wins, I guess. And then all that craziness. Boise State, though, they have a chance to win the Mountain West once again. I think Boise is going to derail UNLV's little hopes here. We've seen a lot of craziness from UNLV this season. I think Boise State's composure and experience in this game is going to get them the win. Then we got Jackson State taking Prairie View A&M at the Vet. Give me Jackson State winning back-to-back SWAC championships. Cannot wait for that matchup out there at the Vet. I think they get the win. And honestly, like I said, I think it's going to be a good game, but I think Jackson State has a statement on Saturday. Now, Duke, Virginia, this is the big game. Everyone's watching crazy that the ACC is up in the air. Wild situation. I think Virginia handles their business. Love their quarterback. Love what I've seen from their offense. 4-point favorites here. I think they cover that pretty easily. Not really sold on Duke, even though Duke has had some really good wins this season. Next, BYU, Texas Tech. Chaos could ensue in this one. Texas Tech did handle their business very easily against BYU earlier this year. I think they do the same here. 12.5-point favorites. That kind of shows you where everyone's thinking in this one. So give me Texas Tech punching a ticket to the playoffs as well as a bye in the playoffs, which is massive for them. Now, let's nope, excuse me. That is not all of our championship games. Now we got our last two right here. Georgia versus Alabama in the SEC championship. It's just a yearly matchup between these two teams in the championship. I think Georgia's one of the hottest teams in the country right now. I've liked Alabama all year. I just think Georgia's really, really, really hot right now. But I don't think Bama gets knocked out because you can't punish a team for making their championship game, their conference championship game. Give me Georgia, though. They're going to cover that 2.5. Ohio State, Indiana, I have been preaching to this one for a long time. Give me Indiana. They're going to handle their business against Ohio State. I really, really like Indiana this year. This game right here, this will be the last thing I got. This game is going to be about the run games, the defenses, low scoring, I imagine. I think Indiana's skill set offensively, even though Ohio State has some of the best players in the country offensively, I just think Indiana, I really like that team. I really, really do. Oregon can run on them. So that's who I got. That's all we got for today. Ran out of time, had a lot to break down, but let's go ahead and send y'all to the 4 p.m. newscast that just got started right now, where you can find out your latest in news, weather, and as well sports later in the day. But once again, thank you all for joining into the Beyond the End Zone. Once again, I'm Nathan Lee. Y'all have an incredible day.